How are you? Thank you.
She's a cutie.
I heard she might be coming in today.
She might be
What?
coming in today.
Oh, she is.
Yeah.
So my first son was born. He was born in May. We had a graduation party. He was weeks old.
Yeah.
We took him to
Yeah.
and he was loud. He was screaming.
Yeah.
He stepped right through it.
Yeah. That's what she was. She was sure everything.
Well, Ani and Christy had almost the same exact experience at Kaiser.
Oh, sorry.
Christy was in labor for 48 hours before they actually
And then they do
did the
C-section.
C-section.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Because women get stuck in 9 centimeters, they let them go for hours.
I know.
Hours. So they've already had their labor, and then they cut them out.
Yeah, they're like the baby's heart rate's starting to go up. And I was like, good, great, let's get him out of there. That'd be a good idea.
Well, Trudy was in for like 20-something hours.
Yeah.
I was working graveyard. She called me, I get home. I was up the whole time. All of a sudden, I'm watching the monitors. The bill report runs there. All of a sudden, it goes down. Everything goes down.
Yeah,
So his head's already sticking out. Got her up and cut the bill report. Scary.
yeah, it's real scary.
Yeah. Especially the first one.
Oh yeah.
This baby's heart rate's changed. Now his blood pressure went up. So I still didn't take her. I'm like,
Really?
what are they waiting for?
I know.
Mike, what's up, dude? Dude,
Guy.
I was about to send the search party out. I haven't seen you in a while. All right, everybody ready?
Ready.
I'm ready.
Do you think Monica's ready? She looks like she's still chit-chatting up over there. Judging? Oh, sorry. It was actually Renee. It was the other brunette. Yeah. All right, Dad, you ready? I know. Well, you know, this could be a while. If he's telling a story, we might not get him for another like 20 to 30 minutes. Could be weeks. Good morning. All right. Wow. It's very quiet. Got everybody's attention. All right, let's try this again. Good morning, everybody. Morning. Solid. Man, we're getting so much better at that. That's awesome. All right. Yeah, it only took us 2 months, huh? It's getting better every week. All right, well, we'll start with welcome new agents. Officially, Shoni, where are you? Right here. Great. Lauren. Yes, let's clap it up. Kim Moore, who's in South Lake Tahoe. I'm not sure if she's on or not. Megan, I'm sorry, Logan, and then Brianna Madrid in Reno, Nevada. So welcome, everybody. Thank you. Yes, we can go clap it up a little bit for them. That's great. Okay, so icebreaker for the morning. What is something you think everyone should do at least once in their lives? I'm not going to start with you, Tim, because it'll be off color, I'm sure. Dad, okay, real estate. Great. Buy a house, maybe? Yeah. Go through that painful process. Yeah, really, if you like torture, you can do it multiple times and get your real estate license. All right, what else? Skydive?
But not at load.
Non-load up. Is it a plane issue or? Really? No.
Yeah.
I think I'll just, stay out of that altogether.
Stay on the-
I think I
stay on
exceed the weight
ground.
limit. Yeah, that's the excuse I'm gonna use at least. All right, what else?
Scuba dive.
Scuba dive?
Yes.
All right, cool. Why?
It's a blast down there.
It's like another world down there, right?
Another world down there.
Okay. All right, what else?
Drive a race car.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Sensing a lot of adrenaline type things here. All right,
Ride a racehorse.
ride a racehorse. Where's Kelly when we need her? She can talk to us all about that. Have you? That'd be cool. 100-mile ride? Yeah, Kelly's crazy. She does those Enduramax or whatever, what are they called?
Endurance ride.
Endurance rides,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Where it's like multiple days.
Don't want to sit in a saddle for 100 miles.
No, I'm good on that.
No.
Dad, you got anything?
You know me, everything's about work. I just
Yep.
think that if you have the opportunity to meet with someone who's already been and arrived at a place where you would like to be, I think the best thing that ever happened to me was at 21, California Association of Realtors getting to sit with Tony Hopkins. I think
Yeah.
it really changed my life.
Yeah. So sitting with somebody that's accomplish the things that you want.
Yeah, at the time, Tommy Hopkins was the Tom Ferry. He was the, he was everything.
Yeah. Okay. I think also maybe fail, right? Everybody should experience that at least once in their life. We probably all have already in some shape or form, but it means you tried to do something and at least you went for it, right? I was thinking about this earlier. Colette pulled the card this morning. I'll let her pick our icebreaker question, but if you can't fail unless you try it, right? And one thing that we know, and we talk about in here quite often, is if you want to get better at anything, you have to at least fail, right? And then you learn from it and you fix the problem and you go and do it better the next time, and you probably fail again, but you fail a little less, right? Anyway, that would be the only one that I would pull. Anybody else want to share anything else? Any more adrenaline experiences we're not talking about today? Ride a motorcycle or something crazy like that? What about you, Tim? What do you Canadians like to do that's crazy?
I think everyone should at least fly first class.
Oh, man, there you go.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Once they
For
get the free
sure.
drinks back
There's
up and
nothing
running
like
though.
it.
Yeah. All
Gotta
right.
go back to coach.
Yeah. Yeah, the coach is not where it's at, especially when you're our size, huh, Tim? Yeah. It's like a cattle car in there. All right. Happy birthday to Nellie Scanlon. Jill, happy birthday. Aaron, if I'm not incorrect, is that today? Oh my, yesterday, sorry. Well, happy belated birthday. Daniel Thompson, who I think is homesick. Lynette, happy birthday soon to be. And Lauren, happy birthday soon to be as well. All right, some housekeeping. California contract class is back on today, correct? The pitch class every Friday. Also, I forgot to put it up here, but call night is tonight. We're starting that back up again. We're doing it every 2 weeks, right? All right, so call night will be tonight from 5 to 7 p.m. We'll see you here. What do we have coming in? Pizza? Pizza, and I think we're gonna have some White Claws probably. Help give you a little bit of liquid courage to start making the calls. All right. Christmas party, save the date. We'll have some more information coming out about this here soon. But December 11th at Oliver's Brew House. Okay, it's gonna be a lot of fun. Colette is in charge of finding us a band, no pressure. So Nikki. Oh, perfect. Yes. We're gonna get you up on that stage at some point to sing. All right. She's like, I'm not coming to the party. All right. So one thing I wanted to talk about, we went and did the Chime webinar again yesterday. We're doing that monthly now. And every time we have more new people on the call because we're growing at such a furious pace here. But it's occurred to me that a lot of people don't really understand what a database is. How many of you understand what a database is? Okay. Do you know what the difference between a database and a CRM is? Okay, we're going to talk about that. All right. So one, a database is a structured set of data. So a good list. That could be back in the day, wasn't it like the old Rolodex on a note card thing? I'm not sure what you guys used to do, but something along those lines, maybe a yellow notepad today, and maybe even 10 years ago, it was on an Excel spreadsheet, right? You had your list of people, your names, their addresses, phone numbers, email addresses, fax numbers, if it was 30 years ago. But here's what it is now. It should be accessible in various ways. So what does that mean today? What's various and what's immediate? Cell phone, right? Smartphone, whatever you want to call it, tablet, in the cloud. Okay, so it should be accessible online. Ideally stored on a computer or in the cloud. Your most important prospecting force multiplier. So what it really is a bank for literally your contacts, right? And that can mean a couple of things. One, if you don't have a database, you probably do have one. It could literally be your sphere of influence, the people you know, your friends and family. It doesn't have to mean that it's leads you've driven from an open house or any other source for that matter. You already have some sort of a database, okay? But it is literally a bank account for your leads. And guess what it does if you do it right? Drives revenue, right? We're all here for sales. I'm not sure if some of you know that or not, but you will. We're in sales, right? If you want to actually do sales in real estate, it takes other people to be able to complete that process, right? You're not going to buy from yourself. Maybe you'll buy yourself a house, right? And represent yourself, but that's different. It's not going to drive you revenue, Okay. So what is a CRM? Because they are different. Tim?
Customer relationship management software.
Thank you. You're probably the only one that has good enough eyes to see that. Yes, that is what it is. A customer relationship management software. Okay. It's a tool for managing and leveraging your database. So your lists goes into your CRM, right? The database is the list. The CRM is how you manage those relationships. Does that make sense? Okay. Where should that be accessible? Cloud, computer, phone, right? Pretty much anywhere, right? That you can access the internet or the interwebs, whatever you want to call it. Your most important database force multiplier is your CRM. It is a tool, okay? And it is a support for your database. So let's talk about where our database lives in this group. Anybody want to take a crack at that? Chime. That's not enough people answering that question.
Chime.
Chime. Okay. What else is Chime? Your CRM, right? So what is our CRM's job? To remind us to do things, right? It's to help keep us on track with keeping up with the customer relationship. Pretty simple, right? If you just drill it down to the simplest functionality, that is what its job is to do, okay? In sales, especially in residential real estate, here is an ugly truth about our business. Agents are inherently lazy, they're really shitty at technology, and they don't follow up. Okay? And nobody in here is going to argue that with me. If you do, I will show you some data points that will prove that I'm very correct about that. We do this different. This is what makes us different, right? There's a reason why I talk about this at nauseum every single week. It's a reason why I take an hour out of every month to go through Chime, to make sure you guys understand the importance of it, okay? If you went into Zillow or any other Fortune 500 company or any of these big tech companies, and you went to the sales floor and said, and you went into an interview and you said, what is a CRM? I promise you, you're probably not getting the job, okay? That's a guarantee. Because if I would have been interviewing you, I'd have sat there and said, okay, we already have a problem here, right? They all use Salesforce or Oracle, some sort of form of an actual database with a CRM system in it that is customized to their business, okay? And guess what? They are salaried employees and it is a requirement at their company to use their CRM. It is not an optional thing. So what are we in terms of what is our business? What do you do for a living, Tim? Right. You all own and operate a real estate business. So if you are a business owner and operator, and part of the way you actually run your business, if you're actually going to do it successfully, is to have revenue coming into your company. How do you do that? Through sales, right? Well, wouldn't you like to have the ability to have some consistency in your follow-up and your communication patterns with your database that is hopefully growing over time? I would think so, right? So one thing that Chime does for us, it does a ridiculous amount of things inside of automation, dialers, it's your website, it is our lead database, it is our CRM. It allows us to segment our database, right? So we already know what the pipeline is. We talk about that, right? That's where we're actually moving them through from a motivation perspective in terms of new lead all the way to closed, and then everything in the middle, right? That's how we're moving them across the actual finish line. But how do we segment them for the long-term follow-up, right? What about the people that aren't our leads? How can we segment our database? Anybody want to take a crack at it? Groups, tags, right? How many of you know what tagging is in Chime? Colette does. That's good. Anybody? Okay, Sonny? Yeah, so it can be, right? So, because Chime actually will monitor the source, which is where did the lead come in to the system from? Was it Zillow, Realtor.com, Open House, Sphere of Influence, door knocking, postcard mailers? It's tracking that for you, right? Well, tagging, and you're not wrong here, by the way, because you can also do the source through tagging. Tagging is unlimited. segmentation inside of Chime, right? So let's talk about what some of those are. I put a couple of examples up, but tags are simply another way to segment your database. In Chime, smart plans, which is automations, can be triggered by adding specific tags. You can create unlimited smart plans on your own if you want, okay? Contacts can have unlimited tags. And so I put up here, let's talk about examples, right? So one way you can segment your database is by saying, maybe they're my neighbor, right? You can create a tag that says neighbor. And then you could literally search the tag neighbor or click on it inside of the search functionality in Chime. And anybody who has that tag that you've added it to will show up. You can put them into a dialer, put them on a postcard campaign, send out a mass email, mass text, whatever you want to do. Okay. I put up some other example, Cash's baseball team parents, Chanel's gymnastics parents, Cash's classroom parents. You can see where I'm going with this, maybe a little theme here, but Loomis Little League parents, EXP referrals that I've received. You can literally have unlimited number of tags. I'm trying to help spur your guys' minds to figure out how to use this in your own life, right? So I don't know what that might mean. It could mean something different. What's a hobby you have, right? If it's Kelly, maybe it's all of her equestrian friends, right? People she's met at different horse races or that she's worked with. I don't know. Tim, it might be different LOs that you've worked with over time, right? That maybe you want to follow up with and keep segmented. And it's a different messaging that you can do to that group of people, right? So if I'm sending out an email to Cash's classroom parents, it's probably going to be a little bit different than the one I would send to my neighbors, right? Not necessarily going to be the same thing. So the point is you can literally drill this down and get very, very micro, and you can also have it be super macro. You can use tags to literally tag your sphere. It doesn't matter. Family, friends, whatever it is, college friends, alumni, name it. You can use it for that, okay? Here's the whole point of this little segment I'm doing. The database is so key and fundamental to the success of your business. We will talk about this until every single one of you has added a tag to your clients, all right? I'm not kidding. It's going to be really, really annoying probably at some point. But the truth is I know how important it is, okay? I know how important it is because it's a competitive advantage that you all have over everybody else outside this building, because I promise you, the majority of them are not doing this. And if they are, they're just not doing it well, right? And we do talk about it all the time because I know that most of you are here because you want to have a successful sales career, okay? And if you don't, that's completely fine. Maybe you wanted this part-time, maybe it's a hobby, but again, still, this is how we do it, right? This is how we actually drive more business. This is how we automate more of what you guys can do with your customers and your client relationships and your prospects and your past clients. Use the system. It's $700 a month if you were to go and buy this product on your own. Let me drop that on you guys real quick. $700 a month that we cover a cost of for you guys to have access to this product. Okay, so please take advantage of it. Also, at the same time, we're going to start doing more database cleanup conversations in our next Chime calls. Yes, go ahead, Shoni.
Colby, are there like instructional videos within Chime that will show us how to do tagging and all of the other features that the program has?
Yeah, and we do have access to a full-on sales training for Chime, and I know they added a two-way authentication, whatever it is now. So go ahead.
If you are trying to take the time test, you have to let me know because I gotta go into this email.
Yeah, they send out a code to my email every single time. So if you want to access those, or if you've been trying and you're getting the two-way authentication code, message Colette or me through Slack, and we can grab that code and send it to you real quick.
Okay.
Yeah, but there also is a bunch of videos in Chime as well. Go ahead.
I just wanted to give you guys an example. I worked in pharmaceutical sales for about 5 years. And at one point I had over 4,000 accounts. And in order for me to get paid, I had to stay extremely organized with those accounts. And I wouldn't have been able to do it without my CRM. The CRM set reminders for me, helped me reach out to customers. It did automation. And without that, I probably would not have been able to make the sales that I did. So just to let you guys know, it's battle tested, proven to work. So just wanted to share that with you guys.
Thanks, Rex. Appreciate that. And probably there's other people that have been in other forms of sales and tech sales or pharmaceutical sales, whatever it was, that it was a structured job, right? And there was a requirement from the employer to actually manage your database in that system, right? And you guys are all independent contractors. I can't require anything, but I can have a very stern rule about whether or not you use our CRM if you're on our team, right? And at the end of the day, it's also how we manage our transactions. And the more we're doing, which by the way, we've done 438 so far this year, it gets more and more intense for the staff to try to manage things when you guys aren't doing what you're supposed to in the CRM, outside of the fact that it's detrimental to your own business. All right. So anyway, if there is more questions about Chime, please do come to those classes. We also record every single one of them. So if you want them, just go into the Chime General, I think it's Chime Questions or something like that channel in Slack, and I add them in there as soon as we're done. So if you guys have questions, you can go watch those or just shoot the questions into that channel and we'll answer them there as well. All right. Any questions about this? Feedback?
Good job.
Thanks, Nikki. Appreciate that.
The next time, Ashley should go over the
Go over what?
smart plan.
Okay, we will. I know we ran out of time this last time to get into all that. It is extremely robust system. So if we didn't get to it last time, we'll get to it on the next class. But again, if there's questions in the immediate, then make sure you send those through. Okay, great. Questions? Tim, do you love Chime?
I love it.
Great. I love that you love it. It's my favorite. Okay. All right. Anyway, Dad, Cameron.
Well, see, just to give an example of like the automation we talked about, I had it set to when someone sees a house 3 times on the website, it'll notify you. I had it set to auto text them. Hey, you want me to stick a little tour to see this house? I've had several times I'm out of it showing, it off is showing a text message respond back. Yeah, I can see it tomorrow at this time. I never would have even known if there was.
The system allows you to be there when you can, right? And that's what it's supposed to do. So anyway, thank you for that example. I think it's nice when they hear it from you guys instead of just me all the time, where I'm just going to tout the thing that we pay for, of course. But real world examples always help. So if anybody else likes to share those things, I appreciate it. Where's my dad at? Dad, you ready?
Yep.
I think you're up.
All right.
Your turn.
Put the screen on?
Yep.
Good morning, everybody. All right. Yeah, I always like to follow up with Kobe's discussion and talk about, some of you know I've been doing this forever, longer than most of you have been alive. And it's funny how the business progresses. And there's always people that say, well, that'll never catch on. I still remember, like I told you last week, sitting at that NAR steering committee back in the 90s and Billy Chi talking about the lions coming over the hill, and half the old guys there were laughing, and Billy was right? Zillow was one of those. Zillow didn't come over the hill. Zillow went around and came up and made friends, and now they are the #1 dominant online lead source in the world. So we got to make sure we stay up, and that's what Kobe was talking about, is staying relevant. And like Cameron said, what I've learned in trying to not master, but at least better understand Chime and some of these programs is the people that are coming into our business, the people that are outside of real estate, they're going to do it right. It's kind of like I told you, it's like I told somebody years ago when they were talking about Zillow, I said, those guys weren't even in real estate. It was a bunch of guys that owned travel agencies, and they figured out how to come in, and now they've basically taken over the business. So we want to make sure that we stay up. We want to make sure that we stay relevant, and that's what we're doing here. That's what we're all about. That's why we're a lot different, and it seems to be going. Doesn't seem it's going tremendously well. So I actually have a couple guests today. Nicole, where's Nicole? Raise your hand, Nicole, right there. Everybody say hi to Nicole. Nicole is like some of you in the office here. She's been in the business a short period of time, and she's already closed over 20 transactions. So in her first year. So when she called up, I said, sure, we'd like to talk to you. She's familiar with Zillow and how to work online leads. So we're glad you're here. And then Norma, where's Norma? Norma, welcome, Norma. Norma's has been a successful realtor in Michigan, and she's checking us out today too. So welcome to both of you. Okay, I wanted to talk a little bit. If you didn't look at this, I put it on general and Slack yesterday, and I know I think Judy's on the line. For those of us that have been in the business for a long time, they update the RPA all the time, right? And sometimes the updating or the changes it's hard to even see them. And then once in a while, this is the biggest change. I was on standard forms back in the early 90s. This is the biggest change since we went from 4 pages to 8 pages, right? This is huge. But I'll tell you what, remember what you got to remember before you get, some of you got used to the old contract. The real estate law hasn't changed. The only thing that changed is the California Association of Realtors contract, right? We're going to be going through it over the course of the next 2 or 3 weeks. Today in the 11 o'clock class, I go through it in a little more detail because of course that's designed for the newer agents. But I wanted to cover some of the highlights today with the new RPA. The new RPA, you're going to start seeing it come out in January. It'll probably be on the zip forms. It might be what auto populates up. So if we don't know how to use it, or if we don't know how to explain it, we're going to look somewhat foolish. For some of you that are brand new, that just got your license last week, it's like, what's the big deal, right? But for some of us that have been doing this forever, it can be a big deal. So the new contract, okay, for those of you on Zoom and those of you in the room, we sent the whole contract to you on general Slack, and then yesterday I put up 3 pages that we'll be talking about a little bit today in brief. So most of it has stayed the same, right? Remember, you start off obviously with the date prepared. I'm not going to waste a lot of time on everything. Stayed, property, parcel number, all of those types of things have stayed the same. One thing that they've added that could throw some of you for a loop because you're trying to figure out why that's there. In Southern California, for those of you in Orange County, you know this, it's not that unusual for 2 firms to list the home together, right? We don't do it that much up here, somewhat to a certain degree because of the price. But if you're in Beverly Hills, you might go with, some of the guys you see on TV and then a real realtor like Jade Mills, right? And so they split it. So what they did is they added C. If you don't have it in front of you, when you bring it up, you'll see basically there's a form that has to be filled out that discloses that there's more than one brokerage, because remember, the agent is not you, the agent is the brokerage, right? The company you work for. I think that's my phone. I should have turned it off, I guess. So that's been added. And then the other thing that I wanted to bring to everybody's attention, as everybody recalls, the expiration of the offer, because some of you will call me when you're writing your offer and say, hey, how long is this good for? It auto goes to 72 hours. And so 3 days. So what they've done is they've moved it from page 9 to page 1. Okay, so it's pretty simple, right? But I have a feeling that there will be some people come January say, hey, where's the expiration of the offer? It's not in the back anymore, right? Then the initial deposit. It'll auto populate. At least that's what I've been told. If you want to put a percentage in rather than dollars, like if you want to put 3% or 2%. It'll automatically figure that for you. Okay, so if it's a $600,000 sale and you put in 3%, 18,000 will go ahead and auto fill. In the past, as you know, we've always had to fill that in. Here's an interesting thing that I noticed on the initial deposit, which is the next one down. Okay, that's number. This is D here. If you recall, the initial deposit in the contract we have right now calls for the deposit to be what, unless otherwise indicated? Wired, right? And most of the time, do our clients, they'll wire it. A lot of people are concerned, rightfully so, about fraud. So they'll want to give a check to the title company. They'll deliver the check. So we've had to make that. We've had to note that in the offer. The new one, it just says, it doesn't say how the initial deposit or the increased deposit. It doesn't say unless you use CR form to cover that, which it's not in existence yet. It does not say how the money is to be delivered to the escrow company, right? And for you new people, when somebody wants to give you a check,
to give to the title company on the deposit of their purchase. For all you experienced people, what do we say?
No.
No, we don't touch the money, because if we do, we have to put it, we have to log it into our log, which we don't have, right? So we don't accept money. The other thing that's going to come more into play, and I saw it on an offer that came in this weekend. People for a long time, because the market's been so hot, and it's still hot, you know, it's crazy, but it's not as bad as it was. People were not putting a maximum interest rate in, right? So sometimes, a couple of times people have said, so what happens when they put 2.5 and they can't get an interest rate lower than 2.5 or lower? Does that allow the buyer to not have to close the transaction? Yeah, right. And so what's been happening over the course of the last year, right, or the last year and a half, is we just haven't been writing in a maximum interest rate, right? Well, this one's right here on the front page. You're going to see that happening more. Buyer to pay 0 points or a maximum of points to procure the loan. Okay, that's another thing that, as I've looked at your contracts, and I thank you, the newer people, for sending me your contracts before you send them on. We haven't been putting in a maximum of points, right? So Justin, Reston, can you adjust an interest rate by having a buyer pay points? Can you adjust the in terms of somebody having a different FICO score? Do points come into play? Right, right. And so I'm going to have you guys do a class on that now that the world is starting to change a little bit on the new mortgage world. But that is something that's going to happen a lot more. Additional financing. The additional financing, it also includes the seller financing. What's going to start happening, it happened this weekend, I saw it from one of our people in Orange County. The buyer asked the seller to carry 10%. They had 10% down. They asked the seller to carry 10%, and they were going to get an 80% loan. For those of you that were in the class last week, when we asked the seller to carry 10%, what does that make us? An originator of credit, right? There's a form that's mandated by the state. Remember, we have forms that we would like, which are basically CYA forms. And then we have forms like the TDS that are mandated by the state, right? The seller financing disclosure is mandated by the state. Okay, so and the reason I bring this up, you might never see it, but if you have a listing, especially in an older area where it's not that unusual, where the seller says, hey, you know, I wouldn't mind getting 5% on my money instead of 0.5% on my money in the bank, I'll carry 10%, right? That may be the case out there, and we're going to start seeing that. This form doesn't spell out, it just has, you have to check the seller financing box. The old form used to spell it out more. Occupancy type, this is a new one. If you all recall, there used to be a box on the current RPA that says, does the buyer intend to occupy the property, right? Now it's going to say occupancy type, primary, or if checked, they've added 2. Secondary or an investment. Why does that matter? Interest rates, right? Do you think the underwriters are going to be looking at that little box, you guys, right? When we do loans, we look at it in a big way, right? Is there a difference between a secondary property and an investment property in terms of interest rates and costs? Yeah, right. When we're selling a lot of properties up in Tahoe and Truckee area, when we sell those properties, do we try to get a secondary loan or do we try to get an investment loan, right? And if you don't know why, and some of you newer people, that's okay, we'll teach you, right? There's a difference in the interest rate and the cost, right? So this contract actually has it. So Kobe, how would I go to the next page?
That's the only one you sent me.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Thought I sent you more.
Nope.
Okay, so you guys are gonna have to bear with me here and we'll send it back out. For those of you that are on computer, you can go to Slack. I sent the whole thing yesterday in general. So here's a couple things that you'll see when you get onto page number 2, which is verification of loan application. They've added 3 little boxes that have to be checked, one or the other. It's either a pre-qualification, a pre-approval, or a fully underwritten pre-approval. Is there a difference, loan guys? Big difference, right? Hey, Nate, big difference. So that's been added to the contract. Again, we'll go through this in more detail. Next week, I'll make sure we have page 2 and 3 up. Okay, but these are just some things I want you guys to get ready for. So here's a really big one. Here's a really big one that they've actually cleaned up, and I like this new form. Some of you have gone through the class, you know the answer to this, and some of you, it's been a while since you've gone through class. Can the buyer have inspections done if they waive the inspection contingency? Yes, right? Can the buyer use those findings to cancel the agreement and get their deposit back?
No.
Not if they waive the inspection contingency, right? So what are buyers doing? They're basically saying that it should have been disclosed, right? And then you get in a whole big disagreement. The new contract, when you guys take the time to look at page number 2, it talks about the fact that if you check this box, the findings can't be used, right? But what's the other thing that's happening right now? Right? When somebody uses a TDS as the reason to cancel the agreement, what reason do they have to give when they use the TDS? None. Do we want them to give a reason? No. They just simply say we are in receipt of the transfer disclosure. We hereby cancel the agreement, period. Don't get into any more detail if that's what happens, right? So the market's starting to, again, it's starting to find some sanity. So we're not seeing as many people writing on 3 or 4 properties at the same time and hoping to get one and then canceling the other 2 or 3 out, right? But there will be continue to be some of that. So the other thing that came up is informational access to the property. It says buyer's right to access the property for the informational purpose only is not a contingency and does not create additional cancellation rights to the buyer. That language is actually right in the body of this contract. Okay. Remember in the past, all it basically said was it was either contingency or not, right? Now it actually explains to the buyer. This new form was designed to be more consumer friendly. And I think it is. Once you read it, I've looked at it many, many times now, and I'm like, this is a lot easier for a person who doesn't do this every day to understand. Okay. So then you go down to review of seller's documents, 17 blank days or days after receipt, whichever is. So here's what I really like about this one. We've talked about it for a long time in this group. What is the number one thing in our market, in our Sacramento market especially, that gets missed right before the close of escrow? We have to try and figure it out. Solar lease documents, right? And so the new contract, what it actually says, big and bright, 8G, review of leased or liened items, such as for solar panels or propane tanks or PACE or HERO liens. The buyer has, and the seller has 17 days to read and approve those. And the buyer, because the buyer is the one that writes the contract, the buyer has 17 days to remove the contingency. But who's responsible for getting those documents to the buyer? The seller. Do you think all the time when we write these contracts for 15 days, close in 15 days, remove all contingencies in 5, and they haven't ordered the solar documents yet, what's the likelihood of getting those solar documents?
None.
Right. Sonny.
I've had two recently, and what I've done is when I open escrow with title, I'm just letting them know right then and there, we've got solar. I'm not waiting on it.
If every listing agent in our area would do that, it would save us a lot of time, right? But what happens on when solar's not owned, people are failing to get the Tesla, assumption package or the takeover package or the understanding of how the PACE loan works, right? And the buyer has a right to understand that. The other thing we have is we have a property that we sold kind of in a remote area. Another one, where's Cameron at? Another one of those roads without a recorded easement, right? And now the road is paved, but it obviously needs to be repaved. And fortunately, our agent figured out that, hey, there's got to be some kind of document as to who's going to pay for the repaving of the road when it happens. There wasn't, right? And like yours, Cameron, there were 6 people on the road, right? And they're trying to, so what do you think is going to happen? Where's Susan at? That road that on that listing that you have, right? The guy on the bottom of the hill said, I don't have any money, I can't pay. So what happens? Right? They either sue the guy or they just say, okay, I guess the rest of us will pay for the road, right? But those are some things that come up when the buyer has a right to review the prelim, because a lot of times people will ask me, and I just had it happen this weekend, what do you look for when you look at a prelim, right? I want to see if there's any liens. I like to see the UFFC, you know, when somebody's got a solar system that they financed, you need to look at the prelim. Okay, so then we go down. The next thing is seller occupied or vacant units. CAR form SIP attached if 29 days or fewer. It actually mentions in big letters 29 days or fewer. We all know why we want 29 days or less, right? Even though California no longer, I think they might have extended, I can't keep track, the eviction moratorium, right? Different counties still have it. So we have to be careful with that. If we put somebody in 30 days or more, it creates a leasehold estate. And then, like I told you guys, the story of a friend of mine down in Southern California, their buyers bought, one of his agents' buyers bought a home, a divorce situation. The wife was living in the property. She needed to stay in the property for 60 days. 60 days came and went. And she said, you know, I've lost my job because of COVID. I'm not moving out. Right. And when we had the moratorium, what was the buyer able to do? Nothing. Right. So it creates a tough situation when what I notice is we do rent backs sometimes and we don't give them enough thought. Right. When we do a rent back, there's a lot of things that can happen that we need to make sure that we discuss with our buyer. Right. So that they don't walk into something without their eyes wide open as to what might happen. Okay.
I have a
This,
question.
yes.
How do we find out what counties still have the moratorium for the?
That's a great question. Part of it is just kind of knowing through experience, but we'll get it out. In Placer County, they don't. Sacramento might still have some type of a moratorium. That the big thing to remember about tenant occupied property is right now, if you were to talk to an attorney, right, and ask them to handle a case with a tenant occupied eviction, a lot of them don't even want to touch it, right? Because it's still so confusing because of COVID, right? But Placer County doesn't have it. I think Sacramento County has extended it. I'll find out and I'll put it on Slack. Good, great question. Okay, let's see. Oh, here's a good one. What has caused most people to not want to sign the retrofit paragraph? If you were to ask most real estate agents why that have listings, why they counter it out or they don't pay attention to retrofit, what has been the reason? Sometimes it's because they don't, Cameron? No, why do you write an offer, you go ahead and you fill in and you put in place that paragraph, I can't remember which one it was, bottom of page 2, top of page 3, retrofit. Right. The real reason is most people don't understand it, right? And so what retrofit, because remember, when people ask me, I just had it happen this weekend, they say, well, what is this? And I say, the contract is written for the entire state of California, not just for the city of Rockland, right? So it has to cover a broad spectrum of possibilities. It's also written for a condo as much as you can use it for a $60 million property in Beverly Hills, right? So that's why that language is in there. But the retrofit is being broken out in the new contract. It's going to actually mention what are the 3 items that's mandated by the state that we have to have. Smoke detectors, CO2 detectors, and the proper strapping of the water heater. What's the one city that some of you have sold houses in our market that actually still has retrofit laws? The city of Davis. If you're going to sell a house in the city of Davis, they're going to actually send an inspector out. They're going to make sure it's there. If it's not, the inspector has to come back. How much does that cost? You sold one in Davis, right? How much did it cost?
I did during COVID, so I had to go out and take all the pictures.
Yeah. So it adds another $500 to the sale, right? So that's the city of Davis. So you just have to keep that in mind. Okay, let me see. Trying to get through this real quick here for you. The nice thing about it is they've put in the same area on page 3, the area where who pays for what, right? Because they used to have, there was escrow fee, by whom, which company, then they would have the CLTA, the seller's title policy, who pays that, which company, right? And then below, they had the ALTA policy, the lender's policy, and that was just assumed that the buyer would pay for that. And then below that, if you guys remember, it's all the other costs, this county transfer tax, city transfer tax, if there is any. And that's the other one that we have to try and figure out because it's hard for everybody to remember which cities charge it, which cities don't. But every county in California has a county transfer tax, right? And what does that run? About 10 per thousand, right? All of those costs, all of those things where somebody has to make a decision now are going to be on page 3. Okay, so that's the good thing. I think it makes it easier for the consumer to understand. My take on this, and we'll get into page 4 next week. My take on this is once everybody figures it out and spends a little time on it, you guys are like, hey, this is simple, right? Brand new. I haven't wrote my first contract yet. You're going to find that this is a better contract. It's a lot better. It's a lot better than what we had before. It's a lot easier for the average person to understand. Okay. So today in the 11 o'clock class, I'm going to be going through in more detail the contract. We're going to talk about, like we always do, we're going to go through what happened this week. Anson had a couple things come up we'll talk about, but I really want to get into with the new people, and if some of you want to listen on Zoom, we're going to talk about the seller's replacement property addendum and why and how to use that as a listing tool. Anson, is Anson on? I can't tell. Yes. Hey, Anson. I talked to Anson last night. He's got a person who's writing an offer on a property. They have to sell their house. If that property if they're not able to get that property they're writing on because his offer is contingent, how can you sit down with the seller and explain to them that we do have a form that's created for exactly this situation, which basically says, Colby wants to sell his house. He wants to buy a new house, but he doesn't want to be living on the street, right? That's the seller's replacement property addendum. And we're going to be talking about that a little bit today. And the other thing I want to go through is the contingent offer form. Okay, the contingent offer form, we had it come up again this weekend. Remember, and this is the one thing, and then I'll turn the meeting back over to Colby. That form used to be 2 forms about 5 or 6 years ago. It used to be one where, hey, I've sold my house, it just needs to close. Or, hey, I need to sell my house and it needs to close. The most important thing on that contingent offer form is it used to include, but it doesn't anymore. You have to check a little box that says it's also contingent upon the close of escrow of my house. Okay, that didn't used to be the case up until about 5 or 6 years ago. So anyway, a lot of good things happening. I think you'll like the contract. Open houses, you guys we're killing it on open houses. We got a lot of people coming through, right, Matt? Linda picked up 2 buyers yesterday. If you want to learn how to do an open house, Linda's not here. She's out showing houses. She's like the queen of open houses, right? That's what she does. I asked her, I said, what do you say? And she goes, I don't know, so, but it does work. And then some of you are out there prospecting, because remember, our goal is to create a group of people that create an entire business around the XP opportunity in terms of building some passive income for some of you. And I was talking to somebody this morning, I'm 63. I wish this would have been around, and I was talking to Anson, I wish I was 33, right? Because when I'm 63, if I'm 33 today, this would be really cool, right? But there's that. And then of course, your own book of business. It's like Tim taking 4 listings basically from taking advantage of the team's successes in social media, right? That's where they all came from. So, and I do see a lot of you, because I'm friends with most all of you. If I'm not, go ahead and send me a request and we'll become friends. But I do see a lot of you going ahead and doing that now, and it's pretty cool to see the success that's happening. So anyway, the meeting starts at 11 o'clock, and all is good. So thank you.
Great, thanks, Ted. All right, contracts, man, that's fun. All right, at least we have that guy to help us out, right? All right, listings, what do we have? Oh, Jordan.
Well, before we move on from the new RPA, there's something to keep in mind. They're making changes and revisions to over 60 CAR forms because of the new RPA. So I know a lot of us, we go into autopilot when we populate one of the forms or an addendum or something like that. Just be looking out for changes.
Yep, makes sense. Thank you. Listings, anybody? Wendy?
No, but I just thought of something. If you have a template in zip forms and you have the RPA saved and we change the RPA, will it automatically put the new RPA in, or if they change the?
You're gonna have to recreate it with the new
the new
RPA.
template?
Yep. Yeah. We can maybe have a class on that one day where we just create it. No listings? Michael? Oh, sorry, Jen.
Yesterday I attended that chime class that Kobe did at Motivated Beats, my phone calls. I have a client that I haven't talked to in 4 months. They were frustrated because the market was just so crazy. They couldn't get a house. So they live in Lake of the Pines. So I called them yesterday. They put their house on the market, didn't sell it. I told them I might have people here that could sell it for them. They said, bring them on up. We'll list it with you. So that just shows that if you follow up on your clients, they'll go with you.
So you weren't using Chime before,
I was using Chime.
and then now you're using Chime.
No, I didn't use Chime a lot.
No, I'm teasing. Thank you for that example. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
but they want me.
It's
to
never
list
too
more.
late,
They're
right?
waiting till the spring to list it again. But they said if we find somebody now, they will sell it because they want to buy something here in Roseville. So if
Okay.
anybody has somebody that wants to buy in Lake of the Pines, it's 1,800 square feet, backs up to the lake. It's almost a half an acre. It's 3/4 bedroom, 2 bath. So if anybody has anybody, Lisa, let me know.
What's the?
I definitely will.
Okay, it's $599.
$5.99.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll buy it.
But probably a 2.5% commission, something along those lines.
Yeah.
So one action led to about a $15,000 gross commission. That's good to know. Good to know.
Exactly.
Yeah. Sorry, just pointing out that little subtle thing there. No, but it's actually, what does you always say, Dad? No matter how far down the wrong road you've gone, you can always turn back. Right. It's that same goes for those of you that haven't been using Chime the way maybe you should. I'm glad that you attended that and appreciate you sharing that. That actually is helpful for other people that probably have.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dad.
Yeah, I finally got that listing on that little house. It's in Lincoln. It's gonna go on the market next Thursday on multiple. I've got it, the listing signed and everything. It's 385. It's a little 2-bedroom, 1 bath. It's on a 1.5 lot. Ideal for the new state law where, 1,200 square foot minimum lots. Because the lot size, I think, is about 10,000 square feet.
Awesome. Anybody else? Tim?
West Roseville, single story, 4-bedroom, 2 bath, 2,600 square foot.
Price?
7.
Okay.
something.
Not bad. I should sell.
It's right across from the park, right, like 2 blocks from the elementary school.
Awesome.
It's nice.
Okay, cool. Anybody else? Michael?
I have that one coming back on all the times are on. It's a 3-bedroom, 2 bath, 13 square feet, about 1.5 acres. It does have an HOA association fee quarterly for $80. But I don't know, I have to check it out. Yeah, I have full tennis courts, rec facility, but pretty nice. That's like a little wraparound deck, 2 stories. So,
Awesome.
we'll see. I'm not sure about price because.
Right. Yeah.
Judy has one coming up.
Who?
Judy.
Oh, Judy, are you on? I don't think so. It didn't happen? Okay. Anybody else? Listings? Okay.
I think the open houses were busy last week with the listings.
Yeah, they were. Yeah. How many people do you think you had through, Matt? 15 different groups?
Just on Sunday.
Yeah. I know Linda probably had 20 to 25 on Saturday, so 25. Oh yeah, you were there. Yeah. 25. Wow. All right. Well, open houses work. I think one of the buyers she's actually showing around right now, she picked up at the open house. So, all right. Any other questions about what we've talked about today before I move on? I don't know if that's good or bad. All right. It's good. All right. Quote of the week. If you're not willing to risk the usual, you will have to settle for the ordinary. We talk about it all the time. You have to be uncomfortable to have progress, right? It's uncomfortable for maybe some of you to use technology, right, Dad? It's uncomfortable for some of you to make the phone calls. I didn't say you're not. I feel like I picked on you enough already, Jeff. So, but it's uncomfortable to do a lot of things that you're not normally doing, right? The brain is automatically conditioned to try to keep you comfortable, but growth does not happen when you're sitting doing the same thing. Okay, so we're in here for a reason. We're trying to make more money, or we're trying to get our careers off the ground, right? Sometimes it's going to take being uncomfortable and putting yourself in a position of doing something, you may not even know how to do, okay? But that's okay. Fail, figure it out, fail again, figure it out, and improvise, right? Everybody in here started somewhere, including myself, including that guy sitting over there, including Wendy, right? Including Sonny, including Tim, including Kelly. Everybody who's having success in here didn't start off successful. That's a promise, okay? But they came in here with an attitude of, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to give it a shot, right? And not everything I say is going to work for you. It may be something you figure out on your own. I was horrible at open houses. Let me be super transparent about that. Mostly because I would rather be sitting watching NFL football, and they probably could tell, right? But, I figured out technology. I never mind making the phone calls, right? I never minded being in front of the people when I was talking to them, but it didn't start that way. I wasn't always confident in myself when I was first doing it, right? Some of it was, I think, the adolescent courage, maybe, of just not knowing what I didn't know, right? And when I first started. But the message for all of you should just be simply, one, give yourself permission to be imperfect, okay? But wake up trying to seek perfection. I'll leave you guys with that for the week. If you have questions about Chime, let me know, let us know. Colette loves teaching Chime. So feel free to reach out to us, and we're happy to help. All right. Other than that, go get them this weekend, and hopefully we see some more sales getting turned in. Have a great week, everybody.
Okay, we'll start in about 5 minutes, everyone.